Hey everybody, let's have a quick look at pusher and DPU operations on the SAR. So prior to the mid-90s, SD40-2s held down all mainline assignments. 401, 403, 405 were set up as low control leads. Now in the early 80s, a pair of receivers had been wrecked. They were replaced by GP60Bs. Bulk trains were traditionally set up 2 on the point, 3 units in the middle, and to get these trains up the hill from Cowley to Burmis, an additional 6 units would be placed on the tail end. That was a pinch push. Now traffic was increasing in the 90s, and SAR went shopping for new power. They placed an order with EMD for 13 SD70 Max. The first 4 showed up in this interim paint scheme. Production delays deferred the remaining 9 units for about a year to a year and a half. Now, these first 4 units had bugs in the software which wouldn't allow them to talk to outside railroads' locomotives. In fact, they had a tough time talking with themselves. So, DPU operations couldn't begin. Until the software bug could be worked out, trains were going to have to run traditionally all the power on the head end, which was going to present problems with drawbar forces. Now, when you have mid-train helpers or mid-train remotes, you can push on the tail end, drawbar forces won't be exceeded, and that's what was happening prior to this. The pincher push consisted of 2 sets of 3 SD40-2s each. On a bulk train, those 2 sets would be MU together. One crew would simply push the tail end of a bulk train up towards Burmis, and then they could return to pincher. Now, with all the power on the head end, the 2 sets had to remain separate. One set would be placed mid-train, approximately 50% back from the head end, and the second set would traditionally push on the tail end as they'd been doing for years. Now, the dynamics of a train with all the power on the head end is different as well. They don't perform as well through curvature. So these bulk trains with all the power on the head end were having issues between the west switch at Burmis and the east switch at Sentinel, specifically between Coleman and Sentinel, where the grade is 1% and there's several reverse curves. So the solution was to keep the mid-train pushers in all the way through Burmis and into Sentinel, where they would cut out. The tail end pushers would still cut out just east of the east switch at Burmis and return to pincher. This, of course, added extra distance and time to the pusher set that was in the middle of the train. Therefore, pushers weren't as available. We had to increase the pusher capacity at pincher. Thus, a third set was put into place. So instead of 2 3-unit sets, there was now 3 3-unit sets. With the shortage of power and the lack of that other additional 9 SD70 Max, SAR went shopping for secondary power and found some SD40Ms on the market, obviously of ex-SP heritage. Basically, it's an SD45 rebuilt to SD40-2 standards with a 16-645. Now, the bugs were fixed soon after, and the second batch of 40 or 70 Max started showing up, 705 to 713. They were painted slightly different, orange and aluminum, thus they became known as silverbacks to the crews. Initially, SAR kept the DPU configuration in the middle of the train, but they were experimenting with tail end DPUs, and there was benefits to that as well. So there was now 2 different scenarios with DPU trains. Tail end DPU, you cut into the middle. Mid-train DPU, you push on the tail. CP began experimenting with multiple DPUs at this time. This coal train runs from Sparwood east to Thunder Bay, Ontario, configured 2, 1, and 1. Now, this wasn't an issue with pushers because this went east across the system, thus it was dropping down the big grade. But this was kind of the shape of things to come. During this time, SAR was still taking delivery of AC propulsion locomotives. A pair of SD70 Mac T1s, basically a 4,300 horsepower flared rad version of the 70 Mac that was Tier 1 compliant. And in 2006, they took delivery of 4 SD70 ACEs. Now, this gave the railroad a lot of flexibility. They had more than enough power to cover their bulk trains, and they could pretty much run all their mainline traffic behind AC power. So the pusher operations were really taking their tolls on the older locomotive fleet. Management decided to replace the trios of 40-2s in the pincher push with pairs of 70 Max or Aces. Initially, 2 pairs were stationed at pincher. Those 2 pairs would be MU'd together to assist bulk trains to the top of the hill. Now, at the same time, A crossover was installed at permits to expedite the removal of mid-train pushers once they did get to the top of the hill. This, however, was a bit of a problem as both pushers would be engaged in one train. Any westbound trains that required assistance would have to wait till those sets got back down the hill. So capacity needed to be again addressed. Instead of adding a third set at Pincher, the planners decided just to add a third unit to each set. The 3 units were found to have enough tractive effort to get even the heaviest of trains to the top of the 1.85%, including the new potash trains running west in a 2-1-1 configuration. Rules were soon established for those. Pushers would cut in mid-train directly behind the mid-train DPU. So we now had 3 different configurations of DPU trains and 3 different rules to apply pushing them. Now, there's 2 things that are very important when it comes to DPU operation and end scale. 1, get your locomotive speed matched. I've covered that in the video already. I'll link it at the end. Number 2, body mount your couplers. Now, if you'd like to learn more about body mounting couplers on a whole bunch of different types of freight cars, consider hitting that join button, become a member. I've just started a series for my members on just that. Well, that's a wrap on this one. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the evolution of pusher operations on the Crow's Nest sub. If you like what you see, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.